Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Wednesday, April 27th, and I wanted to come in here today and talk about the voices that we hear. I know that's a neat one, isn't it? Because often when we talk about people hearing voices, we think of people who suffer from schizophrenia, some of them paranoid schizophrenia, who have many voices in their head telling them to do things or telling them things that aren't necessarily socially acceptable. And that's a problem. But whether you realize it or not, we hear voices in our head all day long. And it's our voice. And it might not even be our voice, it might even be a voice that you've never recognized, but you heard. It could just be a thought, it could be anything. But often, those voices are giving us reason to doubt things, to be afraid of things, to wonder about things. They're telling us stories. It's kind of interesting that our own chatter is not that dissimilar to that of someone who has what we consider a borderline personality disorder. We are constantly in conversation with ourselves and we don't even think about it. And that's sort of where I wanted to go today, because one of the things that has to happen in order for people to progress farther in life than they are today is that they have to stop listening to the voice that tells them, don't do that. Now, there's a caveat here, of course. Moral, ethical, right? If it's moral and ethical and it doesn't harm anybody, then why wouldn't you want to do it? Right? The reason that we decided to do this and why we love working with this company the company that we work with, excuse me, and we're sneezing, allergies, South Carolina. Oh, anyway, it's not going to happen. So the reason we decided to do this was because the company has a high integrity, high moral standards, high ethics. We have 6 habits of transformational leadership that we follow, and each one builds on the last one. And one of them is that we play above the line. The other is the obstacle is the way, right? There's more to it, but those are the general principles of 2 of them. And we also transform people masterfully. And that's the part about hearing the voices that we need to talk about, that last one. Transforming people masterfully. Because whether you realize it or not, probably 85% of the thoughts, there's a number out there somewhere, I forget exactly what it is, that you have every day are the same as the ones you had the day before. But you never stop to hear that. And that's the key. You can make all the jokes you want about meditation. Some people do. Other people are into it. But there is something to be said for just being quiet. And that's the truth, because I spend probably my first hour at least every morning in total quiet. I read. I actually do meditate for 12 minutes every morning, just for 12 minutes. It's an arbitrary time. I just picked it. But for those 12 minutes, I sit there and I let my thoughts happen, and then I just let them go because I don't really have to worry about them. Because a lot of them are telling me, don't do this, don't do that. And I don't want to hear that, because I need to do things in order to get where I want to be. So you hear voices too. Are your voices telling you that you can't? Are your voices telling you don't do that, it's scary? Are your voices telling you things that'll stop you from growing to what you could possibly be in life? Because believe it or not, we weren't born to be shrinking violets. None of us. Nobody is born. I'll put it this way. How's this? You ready? Nobody is born with the potential to stay poor. Circumstances, choices, life put people in those positions. I can say that I've had a pretty good life, but I also can tell you that I listened to those voices a lot in my life. And for that reason, I am where I am, and now I'm growing beyond it, but I am where I was up until 5 years ago because of it. And I was thinking about this the other day, and if I was going to write a book, it would be something along the lines of Thoughts of a Slacker. Probably would be the title, because I'm sure my editor would say, don't use that title. I always looked for the easy way. Every time something came up, I always said, there's got to be an easy way to do this. And sometimes there's not. And when you do take the easy way, things don't turn out the way you want them to turn out. And I can tell you that I never got promoted in the fire department, probably because I took the easy way. I never got promoted at work, at retail, probably because I took the easy way. You see where I'm going here? Right? If I had taken the hard way, very possible I would have been promoted both of those positions. But again, I took the easy way, because there was always that voice in my head saying, well, maybe not. Maybe you're not that good. Now, that's not to say that that voice is gone. But now I acknowledge the voice. And I go, yeah, I hear you. But guess what? We're going to find out if I am or not. And there's the difference. Because now the voice isn't running my life. It's just part of it. And that's what we try to teach people about their journey when they come with us. That includes coaches that come with us and clients who come with us in both, because some clients are coaches and some coaches are clients and blah, blah. And notice I said some. But anyway, when you think, Tim Ferriss said a really neat thing in one of his books. And what he said was, he has these 17 questions he asks himself. And one of those questions is, what if I did the opposite for the next 48 hours? What would happen? Think about that. What if you did the opposite for even 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, a week? What if it started working and you said to yourself, I just got to keep doing the opposite of what I think, and it'll work? Because the reality is that we have a built-in system called the reticular activating system that stops us in our track when we get scared. Fight, flight, or freeze, guys. Right? That's built into us. Okay, we don't have saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths chasing us around and all that anymore. But the reality is that even the smallest problem today can seem like it's a saber-toothed tiger coming at us. Tiger, I can't even speak anymore. Tiger coming at us. And our system goes into shutdown. What? I have to go live on Facebook? What? I have to talk to 1,000 people? What? I have to what? You want me to do what? That's your RAS. That's your fight, flight, or freeze kicking in. You get defensive. You don't want to, you're like, me? Right? So what you have to work on for yourself is overcoming that and getting out of your own way, because your mind is telling you, but what is really good might be on the other side of that fear. And for the most part, doing a live on Facebook isn't going to kill you. Or reaching out to an old friend and saying hi isn't going to kill you. Or changing the way you eat shouldn't kill you, depending on what you do. You see where I'm going here? Like, we all tell ourselves stories. We're not even aware that we're telling ourselves stories. We just do it. So maybe if you just sat with yourself a little while, turn the TV off, sit with yourself, listen to what's going on in your head. Because guess what? If you turn everything off and sit quietly, you're going to start hearing things. You're going to hear your head saying this, that, boom, boom, boom. I always thought, to meditate, you had to have no thought whatsoever. Well, guess what? It's impossible to have no thought whatsoever. If you can get to that point, you are like the world's most perfect human being, because there's absolutely no way you can't have something going on in your head. Okay? But you can control your reactions to all of that. And that's the secret. Do you have to respond to everything? I talked to somebody one time about meditating, and they said that they never realized how much they itched until they started doing it, because you have to sit quietly and just. And I said, do you scratch the itches when you get them? And he said, yeah, I do. It's annoying. I said, did you ever try sitting with the itch? He's like, no. And I said, try it. And you're sitting there now thinking, he's crazy. Maybe. But I can tell you this. Every itch doesn't need to be scratched. Think about that. Every itch doesn't need to be scratched. And that includes the ones where you get an itch on your body. And I'm proof of that, because I sit in the morning, and if I get an itch, guess what I do? I ignore it. I actually don't even ignore it. I focus on it. I go, how long is this going to itch? Let's see. Now I'm focused on one thing, the itch. And what does that do for me? That improves my focus. And that's really the magic, is when you can improve your focus, you'll be able to do more things better, because you're able to focus on them when you're doing them. And then you're not going to hear the voices so much, because you're too busy focusing on what you need to focus on. And that nagging voice in the back of your head saying, you're not worthy, doesn't matter anymore, because you are worthy. You are. All right, guys, I'm going to get off. Have a great night. Bless you. We'll talk to you soon.